For the 7th straight year, Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, has made its trek to the Mid-Atlantic and the famed VIRginia International Raceway. 17 GT3 cars are on site to take on this 3.27-mile roller coaster of a racetrack that was carved out of the Virginia countryside in the 1950s. Decades of dormancy nearly saw this track lost to history, but under new stewardship, VIR was resuscitated and has reestablished itself as one of the premier road racing venues in North America. Hello, welcome to VIRginia International Raceway. Ryan Marine and Calvin Fish with you here on site. Amanda Busick is down in the pit lane as we get ready for the first of two races this weekend for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Amanda.
And this first race here at VIR is race number 7 on the season. We're going to hit the halfway point of the Fanatec GT Series here this weekend. And you got to love race day with all the action happening here. Those warm tires are going onto the GT machinery. They say that this is one of the toughest tracks to handle in North America. And our very own Calvin Fish has a walk around VIR.
Welcome to the Fanatec Fast Lap. Let's take a closer look at what it takes to be quick around this beautiful 3.27 mile circuit here at VIR. Turns 3 through 5 here at VIR is a very technical and complex series of corners. It starts with the approach here. You can see the curvature to the racetrack. You're never really in a straight line as you try to get things slowed down. Approach speed in the GT3 car is going to be about 115 miles an hour in 4th gear, down to 3rd gear. Don't overslow the car on entry, trying to get down to this apex curbing here. But let's take a closer look at these curbs here at VIR. This is what you're going to see around the majority of this race circuit. Kind of two phases to it. There's this bare concrete phase, let's call that the teeth, and then this FIA curbing, that's really the molars. That really has some bite to it. If I put my shoe in here, you can see they're pretty deep. You'd think they're too aggressive to use, but the way the deflection of the Pirelli tire works and also the way the cars will be set up for the drivers and the teams, they're going to try and ride those bumps here. It's really important to lap time to achieve that. One of the most iconic corners here at VIR is, of course, Oak Tree. We lost that famous Oak Tree back in 2012, but it still remains one of the most important corners on this racetrack. Exit speed here is critical. If you can carry a little bit more speed off here, it's going to carry you all the way down Madison Avenue and maybe make an overtaking opportunity into the roller coaster. But I think an even more important corner here is the preceding one, turn 11. As you can see, it's uphill. It gives you a lot of confidence into that brake zone. You're going to be charging this corner at about 130 miles an hour, coming in 4th gear down to 2nd. This is really an extended brake zone all the way through this corner. But the key is you've got to have the car lined up correctly with the outside curb. If you cross over here with a car compared to the curbing here, it's going to really load up that left front. As we get deeper into the race this weekend, you're going to see a lot of these little marbles here will form on the outside of the circuit. That gives you very little grip. And if you're trying to turn in and get to the apex, you can run out wide and end up in that tire barrier on the exit. Well, Bathurst has the Dipper, Laguna Seca has the Corkscrew, and here at VIR we have the roller coaster. And boy, is it a lot of fun. The approach speed down Madison Avenue is going to be about 165 miles an hour. Very tricky brake zone there. And then you've got to tip it into the gates. I look at this section of the racetrack like a slalom skier. You want to hit your gates as you're coming through there. Trimming these curbs as you're coming through this corner. As you can see, it's downhill. It's like a runaway train you've got to take control of through this section of the racetrack. If you get a little bit offline, the key is really controlling that with the throttle, the weight transfer of the car to keep the car pointed in the right direction. If you can finish it off through hog pin, that is a tremendous lap here at VIR.
Known as one of the toughest tracks in North America, stop number 4 on the Fanatec GT season comes right here to VIRginia International Raceway, affectionately known as VIR. 17 competitors will try to tame the 17-turn, 3.27-mile facility. And in the words of Paul Newman, if there is a heaven on earth, it is VIR. But don't take our word for it. One of those competitors looking to conquer VIR is none other than our championship leader, the RS1 Porsche of Stephen McAleer and Eric Filgaris. However, that Racer's Edge Acura has put themselves right back in competition, picking up the overall win at COTA. MDK Motorsports are going to try their hand this weekend in Bimmer World. Oh, guess what? It's their home race. With 4 wins on the season, Elliott Skier and Adam Adelson continue to lead the Pro-Am category, but that battle for second, hello to Colin Brown and George Kurtz. Derek DeBoer is right there as well, and with their success at COTA, say hello to Jan Halen and Charlie Luck by name and by nature. He's really talented here. They are rounding out that battle for second. Welcome to the Pro-Am category. Your Fanatec GT rookie Anthony Bartone, who his co-driver, joins the series for the first time, Adam Christodoulou. A full paddock here at VIR also includes the Pirelli GT4 series with GT America powered by AWS and TC America powered by Skip Barber. Toyota's GR Cup returns to us this weekend, and every single one of these drivers are going to want to make it right here. You know, the top step of a podium is closer to heaven.
So many great stories to keep an eye on. Thanks so much, Amanda. And in fact, one of the stories is at the very front of this field. TR3 Racing in the pro class here this weekend with Daniel Morad and Kenton Cook. They qualified on the overall pole, and Daniel Morad is with Amanda down pit side.
Absolutely, Ryan, and we were just talking about how you guys are on pole racing in the pro category this weekend. Ziad on vacation, so how did the partnership come together?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Ziad can't be here. He's having a good time, though, on vacation with his family, and big thanks to him for allowing us to actually be here and for him allowing us to call up Kenton. He has worked with the team before on the GT4 side, so it was a natural fit, and Kenton's a friend of mine, so when Greg asked me, who do you want to drive? I'm like, yeah, Kenton. It was like the first choice, and he stuck it on pole, which is amazing, but it's tough for us. We unfortunately weren't able to do the test days, and we had one session on Friday, so it's kind of been a guessing game. Kenton, you know, in Q1 was able to stick it on pole, but for us, we're down on straight line speed and just trying to figure out the balance. So this is kind of like a test session, but it's a good one because you're starting from the front.
Well, you were telling us earlier, I know prior to qualifying, you were saying that you are looking for this overall win here today, but when you look at the battle between your half of the race, what can we expect?
Hopefully it's going to be easy because Kenton's going to build up a gap for me. That's the dream, but we'll see. It's so dynamic. Things can happen in the race, and especially here at VIR, it's a very difficult circuit as a driver. A lot can happen. There's some key areas, turn 3, turn 11, turn 10, big commitment areas. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Well, Ryan, I think we're getting excited for some noise down here soon.
I think you're exactly right, because just keep an eye on those pit lane officials. They'll be giving the signal here, and there it is, to fire up the 17 GT3 machines, Pro and Pro-Am classes on site here this weekend at VIR, and it will be Kenton Cook to lead the field to green. But the Pro-Am pole sitter starts alongside, that's George Kurtz. He and Colin Brown just 1 week ago, they were racing at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. They won their LMP2 Pro-Am class over there. Now they're back stateside, and they have been quick all weekend.
They really have. They found the magic sauce here this morning. The car was blindingly quick. They start from the front row for both races here this weekend. So trying to make a little bit of hay here because they're trying to chase down that number 120, the Wright Motorsports team with Adelson and Skier in the championship. They currently sit 36 points back, but the 120 squad have been on a roll. 4 wins this year and swept the last event at COTA.
Big momentum for them, no question about that. A couple of new faces in new places here in this race weekend. That's something we'll be talking about throughout the course of this race. But as mentioned, TR3 Racing in the pro class after running in Pro-Am for the bulk of the season so far. Let's look at that starting grid where Daniel Morad, well, actually it'll be Kenton Cook starting on pole for TR3 Racing. Heard from Daniel a moment ago. George Kurtz, the Pro-Am pole sitter, rolls off second overall. Chandler Hall, he was also racing at Le Mans last weekend. That was in a Ferrari. Today he's in the familiar BMW. Seth Lucas, great qualifying effort from Seth to start in the 4th position. Down to the 3rd row of the grid we go. That's where you'll find the Pro-Am championship contenders from Wright Motorsports. The 120, Adam Adelson, nice qualifying effort from him. Alongside will be the number 43 Real-Time Racing with Bartone Brothers racing car of Anthony Bartone, racing in Pro-Am this weekend after running in Am all season. Adam Christodoulou drafted in alongside Anthony. Derek DeBoer qualified down in 7th, but good pace in that car. Expect to see Valentin Haseclo move to the front, and Charlie Luck, a native Virginian, starts in the 8th spot for Wright Motorsports in their second entry. Eric Filgaris, first time he has not been on the class pole all season long in a race one of one of these Fanatec GT weekends. He'll have Manny Franco starting next to him back in row number 5. Samantha Tan from ST Racing, Jeff Burton from DXDT Racing make up the 6th row of the grid. Justin Wetherell from Triarsi Competizione, one of those beautiful Ferrari 296s, starting next to Pedro Torres from the ACI Motorsports team that's been chasing the handling of that Porsche all weekend. Ashton Harrison had a crash in practice yesterday, struggled in qualifying today, starts 15th. Vin Barletta making his debut in the championship will roll off in the 16th starting position. And at the back of the field, Scott Smithson in a car that's needed to be repaired. He had a crash in Q1 earlier this morning, was 5th overall at the time of that crash, but because they had to make those repairs, he starts at the back of the grid for race 1 here today. Cars out on the formation laps, and let's go ahead and take a chance now to check in down pit side with our Amanda Busick.
Well, joining us from Rova Motor Oil, the president of the North American aspect of that, Ken Mooney joins us here at VIRginia International Raceway, and we're standing in front of the team who put the car on pole, and you got to reward that excellence today. How cool is that being a part of rewarding driver performance?
It's pretty incredible. Honestly, we've been involved in motorsports for a long time. We're happy to be back involved in motorsports here in North America. And it was a weird kind of circular moment. Kenton Cook, the driver who took the pole, used to drive for one of our teams in IMSA years ago, and it's just awesome to be back involved in this.
Thank you, Ken.
Great to have Rova involved. The Rova Pole Award handed out all season long, and today it belongs to Kenton Cook. One of 2 formation laps are complete, and we can see the light still on that Toyota GR Supra safety car, so they'll come around one more time and then take the green flag. Great field of cars. New faces, though, that we're going to have to contend with and get used to saying TR3 as a pro car, Bartone Brothers Racing as a Pro-Am car. And how about this? Neil Verhagen on board with Samantha Tan this weekend, replacing John Edwards.
BMW junior driver fitting in that slot for John. So John has got a lot of personal things going on at the moment. His wife Serena is expecting their first baby in a month or so. So I think he's more looking ahead as to whether he'd be able to participate in the remaining rounds. And I think the decision was made by BMW. Let's slot someone in there who can be committed for the full championship season. So good luck to that family there. But Neil's been up on the wheel this weekend. He's very fast in the qualifying session for tomorrow's race. But also that BMW, you see Vin Barletta is going to be starting this race aboard the Turner Motorsports number 096, and he did a really solid job in the GT America race a little bit earlier in the day, and Robbie Foley put that car on the pole for tomorrow, so that BMW has a ton of speed, and Vin is likely to keep his nose clean. He's a really solid driver. He's had success before in GT4 competition with Robbie Foley as his co-driver and under the Turner Motorsports banner.
And behind that Turner BMW, you saw the repaired car of Scott Smithson. That could be a car to watch here in the early stages. As I said, Scott was rapid in qualifying, just had a slight off. Doesn't take much, though, here. You drop a wheel in the wrong place and you can end up in the tires, or as he did, in the Armco.
Yeah, we had a thunderstorm middle of the afternoon yesterday that actually curtailed one of the practice sessions, or shortened it, should I say. We had to take a brief hold there, and that really hurt. Teams like TR3 who didn't do the test days here earlier in the week, so that's what Daniel Morad was alluding to in his interview with Amanda, that they didn't have a ton of track time. But nonetheless, the grass was still very wet. And if you run off course here with some of the cameras with the off-road situations there at Courtout Scott Smithson through the final corner of this lap in Hogpen, and big damage to the tail end of this car. But for the DXDT squad, I really feel, Ryan, that they're starting to make inroads into finding the sweet spot. They've been frustrated with the performance of their cars versus some of the other Mercedes in this field, but they keep chipping away at it, and this weekend they're showing good pace and starting to show some rewards for their hard work.
Definitely so, and again, Smithson has had pace this weekend. Keep an eye on the car that starts 17th. Field starting to go into 2x2 alignment. The lights were off on the Toyota GR Supra safety car, and that means as they make their way down this 4,000-foot back straightaway called Madison Avenue, that we are now just a few corners away from going green. Calvin, the nerves going into a race. What are these drivers feeling in the pit of their stomach right now?
Well, for someone like George Kurtz, I mean, he's got a ton of experience. We talked about coming off a Le Mans win last week aboard a LMP2 machine, and he's won a lot of races at this level, but typically doesn't start this race from the front row. So how he manages that against Kenton Cook, who's top shelf, real talent behind the wheel of Nike, will be interesting to see.
Keep an eye on Kurtz in the CrowdStrike car. He's the only Pro-Am runner in the top 4. The rest are all from that Pro class. Coming around Hogpen, the final corner on the track, and waiting to enter the VP acceleration zone to get race 1 of the weekend underway. 90 minutes up on the clock. The car's in perfect alignment. And now we wait for Kenton Cook to accelerate. His first race at this level of SRO America. He starts it from the pole, and he's able to sprint ahead and grab that lead in the early going. Here comes Kurtz, though. He's going to take a look to the outside. Fight is on for the lead going into turn 1 for the first time, and it's 3 wide further back.
Yeah, Derek DeBoer there in the middle of the pack aboard the blue Aston Martin makes a bold move down at the inside. Side by side there with Charlie Luck. Everyone's just trying to coexist here. The little kink in the road. See the Ferrari into the side of the Aston Martin there.
Phenomenal save, Derek DeBoer, and that thing pointed sideways. Somehow he corralled it back in line. Now he's on the counterattack, trying to work on Manny Franco. That is mired deep in this field. Ferrari versus Aston Martin.
Great save there by Derek DeBoer there. Great car control. Manny Franco. It's just really hard to kind of squiggle through that sector with the same pattern, and he just ran out of road there a little bit, going to the side of the Aston Martin, but it saved him probably from getting a penalty with Derek's car control there.
Turns 5 and 6, known as the Snake, now into the climbing S's, which culminate at turn 10. South Bend right here, and the run down to Oak Tree.
And that will have fired up Derek as well. He felt in this morning's practice session, or excuse me, qualifying session, he had a monster lap going, and before that red flag when Scott Smithson went off. So the pace potential to be shown here aboard this Aston Martin here today.
Now the back straightaway, Madison Avenue. Big elevation change all around this track, 130 feet over the course of a single lap, and quite a bit just packed into this one straight section. First up, now the plunge back down before a little rise into the roller coaster.
That's Eric Filgueras aboard the gray and green, number 28 there. They're the championship leaders in the Pro Division. Not a great qualifying run for them this morning. They've had pole position every single race. Let's take a look and see how this develops. See there, right in turn 2, Manny Franco just kind of puts it, threads the needle there, and gets into the side of Derek DeBoer.
You see his hands at work there. That's not a small moment inside one of these GT3 machines. But great job by DeBoer, great car control. He's able to hang on to that race car, keep it pointed in the right direction. 1 lap complete, and it's Kenton Cook showing the way, but how about George Kurtz right in his tire tracks?
He's right there. He said the car was absolutely magic in the qualifying session this morning, giving him a lot of confidence he's going to go on the attack here.
Interestingly, it was diabolical in qualifying for GT America, the single driver sprint format. He had a chance to do that first, was able to convey that to the team. They made some changes and unlocked the pace in this Mercedes-AMG.
On board now with the MDK Motorsports Porsche GT3R of Seth Lucas. Flat out through here. This is the climbing S's. The road has given you grip, pushing those Pirelli P0s into the tarmac, and Vin Barletta, quick spin here.
Barletta off and trying to get back on. This will be costly from a time perspective, and for a car that we know has front-running pace with his co-driver Robbie Foley behind the wheel, this will be the pole-sitting car tomorrow. Let's see what happens.
Else is involved there with that moment. I think that's over in the turns 3, 4, 5 area potentially.
Apologies, yes. Not a replay, rather look at live pictures once again. Kenton Cook starting to find his rhythm. Not much time aboard this particular car. Does have Mercedes GT3 experience, but crucially not on Pirellis. And so he's going to be leaning heavily on this team, its experience, and specifically Daniel Morad. His co-driver, George Kurtz, nearly shot it off track.
That was a big save. It's going to give Seth Lucas the run here down the front stretch. George's got to be careful here. There's a little kink in the road. You don't want to pitch him if he's got overlap to you, but George maintains the position. That was a big moment. If you could see it from the outside like that, that was arms and elbows inside the cockpit. Great save.
That's allowed Cook to escape to the tune of 1.5 seconds. Kurtz fighting here amongst the Pro Class cars. He is a FIA bronze-graded driver, but one who has been getting quicker and quicker with each passing season.
Absolutely, and when you give him a car that he's got confidence in, he can make it perform. And you can just see he's got back into his rhythm immediately. So earlier in his career, George would have probably been backpedaling a little bit. I didn't like what I felt there, but he's got the confidence now to get back on with the program.
Do want to give a shout out to Manny Franco, who is up 4 spots since the start of this race. Made a pass on Anthony Bartone a couple of laps ago. That's the Ferrari you see coming through the shot right here. He's flat on it through the climbing S's.
Brand new chassis underneath that car this weekend after a monster crash that he and Chandler Hull had at Circuit of the Americas. They didn't participate in the second round there.
That really cost them from a points perspective. They were in the fight, but because that crash occurred so early, they were not classified, did not score points, and that put them out of the equation. And I asked Manny about that earlier this weekend. He said, you know what? I have no expectations. I told myself, I'll give myself 3 years to figure this racing thing out. He's really new to it. This is only year 2. He said, after 3 years, then I'll start to hold myself a bit more accountable in terms of outright results.
Well, he's got a great group around him. We just saw a quick shot there on pit lane of Alessandro Balzan, who's his teammate. He's won a ton of championships at this level over the years, and just really a calming influence, so much experience. He knows what makes these 296s tick in terms of being part of the development process for Ferrari as well. And with Conquest Racing, great engineers there led by Eric Bachelot, the team owner, and they've got a quality group.
Keep an eye on the green and yellow Porsche of Adam Adelson, which is entering this conversation. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. That's Kurtz, Lucas, and Hull. But pretty soon, I think Adelson will be there, and that is the 2nd place car in the Pro-Am ranks. His quarry is George Kurtz, who runs 2nd overall, but is the leader in that class.
Yeah, in terms of the championship, yes, the 120 has the lead, as we mentioned earlier, by 36 points over the 04. So we can see George up ahead, and he knows they're going to have that gap reduced unless he does something about it. But Elliott Skier has been a great finisher for that car as well.
Interesting thing is Adam Adelson had a mechanical issue in this chassis in the GT America race earlier today that cost him a chance to fight in the front. He was leading at the time, in fact. The team, though, had about 2 hours to get the car turned around, a little bit less than that, actually. And you can see it's running at full song once again. Great work by the Batavia, Ohio team, Wright Motorsports.
Kenton Cook is getting into a rhythm. You can see him stretching the gap at the front right now, and I think that's going to be so important. If we look at Daniel Morad's pace compared to the other pros in the second qualifying session this morning, if they're going to have a shot at victory here today, they need a green flag run, and they need Kenton Cook to try and create a bit of a buffer here in this opening stint.
You heard that from Daniel in the interview Amanda did, didn't we, at the very start of this? Oh, we see a problem here. Pedro Torres has come to the pit lane. This is the ACI Motorsports team based out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. Not sure what the issue is there, but I'm sure Amanda will be chasing that for us.
He's feeling something amiss in the rear suspension, it looks like. They've been having problems all weekend long with a weird vibration. Spoke to Spencer Pumpelly, his teammate here yesterday, as we see a move now. Chandler Hull trying to go down to the outside of Seth Lucas down into turn 1. Horseshoe corner keeps coming back at you. Good little battle there for 3rd. And that is a battle for 2nd in the pro class as he muscles his way through the inside there in turn 3.
Lucas left that door cracked open ever so slightly, and tell you what, Chandler Hull needs no second invitation. If the gap is there, he will go for it, and that moves him up the spot now, 2nd in the pro class.
I think the BMW is pretty strong here this weekend, and Chandler's trying to take advantage of that. But getting back to Pumpelly's car, they had a weird vibration. They changed the power steering, felt that the tires have been maybe moving on the rim and going a little bit out of balance as well. So it hasn't been a great weekend for those guys.
Caught up with Spencer yesterday, and he said, yeah, we've been dealing with that vibration. We think we got it sorted, but frankly, we're just not quick. And Spencer was lamenting the fact that he had not been able to extract the pace out of the car. Pedro, who has been very quick relative to other bronzes all season long, has struggled similarly. Spin here, this is Charlie Luck who's off.
Turn 11. It's a tricky corner. You come in there, we spoke about it in the track description in terms of how tricky that corner is. You continue to brake all the way through apex. You get a little bit wide as his teammate Jan Halen and son-in-law looks on from the left-hand side of the screen as we're looking at. Don't think there's a lot of impact there. You can see the side view mirror is kind of a little askew, but other than that, he should be okay if he can find a gear and get his way out of there.
Finished 2nd in the championship last year, that combination of Luck and Halen by only 5 points, but this year really has not gone their way. See, Torres has left the pit lane just in front of the overall leader, Kenton Cook. for Luck and Halen. They do have 3 podium finishes, but none better than second at this stage. Last 3 races, though, have been their best. Each of those podiums in the last 3 starts. Good battle here. Phil Garris working on DeBoer. This is a Pro Class car working on a Pro-Am car in the Aston.
Garris trying to set it up to get to the inside. Derek really fires it into turn 3. He's going to use all of that track out, extra curbing that's available. Phil Garris down to the inside for turn 4. Nice move there. That was clean, an efficient, clinical move.
A couple of drivers that shared the track last year in Pirelli GT4 America, but have graduated now to the GT3 ranks here in Fanatec GT. Phil Garris, a champion in the GT4 class just 1 season ago. A dominant performance for this RS1 team. He and Stephen McAleer have carried a lot of that momentum forward to this season. However, the last few rounds have not gone quite as easily as the start of this season did. I think we have an update on Pedro Torres. You saw the field making their way past the stricken Porsche. Amanda, what are you hearing?
Yeah, it was a couple laps back. We were actually at Conquest Racing watching turn 1 when the cars came around. There was an ABS failure for Pedro Torres. He went off the track in turn 1. There was some flat spotting on the tires. They replaced the right rear, or right front. They do believe that one of the other tires might have issues as well. They will be coming back down pit lane soon.
Garris continues his charge. He is dispatched of DeBoer. This is at least the second half of what happened there to Pedro. The lockup in the braking zone for 1.
Yeah, just when the ABS fails, suddenly you got way too much brake pressure and locked up a tire. That's going to give you a vibration. And tough weekend for those guys. Going to be tough to rebound as well with kind of a short turnaround for tomorrow's race. But right now, Chandler Hull has cleared Seth Lucas and now got his sight set firmly on George Kurtz for P2.
Big battle here. And contact between Jeff Burton and Derek DeBoer. Both are able to drive away, but that will cost them both multiple positions.
Yeah, a little bit argy-bargy there down in turn 1. So Derek, so much promise coming into this race, felt like he really didn't have the qualifying position that he deserved in terms of his pace. Take a look and say this develops. Burton down to the inside. May have got, he just gets into his rear diffuser there. Wasn't really front fascia to rear bumper. It was just the diffuser, I think, that actually got turned. That sticks out from the back end of the Aston Martin. Tough to see, actually, thinking about it from the following driver.
3 cars go through, though. Those were Samantha Tan, Justin Wetherill, and Ashton Harrison, benefiting from that contretemps between DeBoer and Burton. Cook's lead is 5.4 seconds. Then you drop back to the leader in Pro-Am. That's George Kurtz coming through the picture right here. And just behind Chandler Hull, who runs second in Pro. And as we talked about, Morad and company from TR3, they know that they might not have the pace to fight with the rest of the pros in the second half of this race. Based on qualifying, certainly earlier today, we're led to believe that could be the case. So this is big here for Chandler Hull. If he can get around and set Bill Oberlin up, they have got a really good chance to go chase a race win today. They
do. They've already had 1 win on the season, and you just got to take advantage. Chandler's done a wonderful job coming back, as you said, from that visit to Le Mans. Now we're going to try and do the crossover here on the exit of the horseshoe. Gets to the inside. George is going to try and keep it right there. He'll have the inside lane for turn 3. Watch what Chandler does here. Does he sit back and try and do the crossover on the exit? No, couldn't get the front to respond.
And George covers off the inside here through left hook, which is turn 4. Now back to the right through turns 5 and 5A. Then snake, this early section of S's. It then leads to the uphill climb known as the climbing S's.
Such a game of chess through that sector of the racetrack, just thinking 1 or 2 moves ahead of where the car in front of you is going to be and trying to take advantage of that scenario. Love this section of the racetrack, flying up here, absolutely wide open until you get to right there. Then there's a brief break, down a gear, crest the hill, big compression, then uphill into 11. This gives you a lot of confidence coming through here. That's where you got to be careful there, getting the car too far outside the normal racing line in the marbles and the dirt later in this race.
Let's check the balance of power in a straight line between that Mercedes and the BMW. Well, thought we were going to get a chance to. Here we go, down Madison Avenue. What can the BMW do? Tends to excel in these types of situations, but Kurtz and company, they've got enough muscle behind or under the hood of that Mercedes to hold off the charge from the BMW.
Yeah, it's not such a strong advantage. You're just going to blow by him. I think he's got to be really tight to George's tail as he comes off of Oak Tree. Then he should have enough of an advantage with the power of the BMW and also the draft effect.
Very interesting to me that Kurtz feels the need to fight so hard. They are not fighting for class position here, but it is a buffer for George between himself and his closest pursuer in Pro-Am, which is the Wright Motorsports car of Adelson, currently running 5th overall.
Curious to talk to a lot of the drivers. They're very into the overall position. Like an overall win means a lot versus just a class win. So I think once the visor goes down and you start to get into the heated battles like that, they don't really care what class it is. Maybe deeper into the season when we get towards championship time, you'll start to think more about the big picture of what class you're running against.
And as far as overall wins are concerned, this Kurtz Brown CrowdStrike by Riley team has been as strong as anyone in the field. They have a pair of overall wins to their name. Race 2 at Sonoma, Race 2 at NOLA, both overall victories.
The tire loading up there as you turn into turn 10. Big load on that right front. Doesn't get a lot of use around this circuit in terms of the direction, but nonetheless, you can hear it scream a little bit through that corner when you're fully loaded. Franco's having a nice run. He's inching up on the tail end of Adelson here.
Well, this is big for him and his confidence. He had a big crash here last year, and he told me, quite frankly, this was not a weekend he was looking forward to. That was something he was going to have to fight through mentally. And in qualifying, started down at 10th. Not a great effort, not bad either. But you know what? You start to put together a couple of good races, and you can have a totally different outlook about a racetrack.
Yeah, you can, and this is a high-commitment racetrack, and if you're a little bit nervous coming in here, it's not ideal. Big commitment, big consequences as well at the same time.
He's sneaking up on the back of Adelson for 5th overall. This here is the fight for 2nd overall. It's happening 8.2 seconds behind the overall leader. Kurtz again defends on the inside into turn 1. Can he get it slowed down? Can he get it turned? Or can Chandler Holt come back? He cannot. Kurtz has him covered.
It's like through the middle gears, like 4th and 5th. They seem pretty evenly matched. Just right at the top end, the BMW comes on a little bit stronger.
Gotta love GT3 racing. Different types of race cars. Both of these, of course, front engine, but very different greenhouses, certainly. Look at and think about the way they cut through the air, make their power, make their speed in different ways. Then you got the rear engine Porsche, a couple of them right behind, the mid-engine Ferrari behind them, all lapping right now within a couple tenths of one another.
The commitment it takes to be so close up through these flying S's, make sure you miss your marks. You just lose your line a little bit, so easy to make a mistake when you're the following car.
And now a lapped car to deal with. That's Torres. They've spent some time in the pit lane after some ABS issues in a flat spot or 2 or 4.
Look at Lucas. Look at Lucas. He is closed up in a hurry right now. And that'll be a battle for a pro position between Chandler Hull and Seth Lucas. The 3rd and 4th car you're looking in as George Kurtz clears the traffic of Torres.
Torres lets those 2 through. Can Lucas follow them through? I'm not sure that that's going to be quite so easy. Good sportsmanship, though, from Torres, trying to get out of the way as best as he can. It does look like Lucas got through, but maybe was held up a little bit. You could see the BMW unload as he crested that hill, up on that suspension, then slamming right back down as he plunges down the hill.
Yeah, such a cool section through there to get right. You're really working your throttle with the weight transfer of the car, just trying to get the car to turn, point in the right direction. You don't want to be coming through hog bend with too much understeer and running a little bit wide. It will catch you out. On board here with Seth Lucas. See him working the wheel. Traction's still pretty good, but he's washing out a little bit wider than he did earlier in the stint. And that's one area where tire degradation will certainly play a part in terms of your traction ability. Coming off a little bit wide there, he had to feather the throttle just a little bit.
Not much traction in this red Virginia clay.
Turn 5, typically down a little bit of understeer through that one, the second part of that. And this is the snake. Chance to think about what's coming up, but it's a fun ride in a GT3 car. They have a ton of downforce to deal with this type of corner. Little breathe. Should be flat with everything perfect. Having to breathe through 9 as well as 10. nice and clean.
There weren't many moments in that sequence where he had that wheel perfectly straight. Tons of little micro corrections. There he's working on getting that air blower directed at him in the cockpit. It's a hot day here in Southern Virginia.
Yeah, he's a young man, he's a fit young man, but these conditions can be brutal. It's actually a nice racing day for the end of June. It's pretty sweet out there today. Cooled off a little bit from what we had midweek.
And a nice crowd has assembled as well, enjoying this beautiful summer day just across the state line from North Carolina here in Southern Virginia near Danville. Close to South Boston. If you're a short track racing aficionado, you'll know that South Boston name. But some high quality road racing has been taking place here at VIR since the 1950s. A couple of decades where this place was dormant, actually reverted back to farmland before it was resuscitated around the year 2000. But it has re-emerged as one of the top venues for sports car racing in North America.
See the gap there on the side of the screen. 10.5 second lead for this man, Kenton Cook. They want a green flag race. They don't want to lose that margin that they have right now. He is doing everything.
He's got the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race, pardon me, Cal, at a 146.4. His last lap was a 146.5, so we're 20 minutes into this, and he's still lapping within a tenth of his ultimate pace.
Yeah, and he's managing it beautifully, finding more and more pace, getting to grips with it. He said after qualifying this morning, he said, well, that was pretty good to put it on the pole. I only had 6 laps here yesterday. As Daniel said, they didn't do the test days that a lot of the other groups did earlier this week. So track time was limited for TR3, but they're making the most of the situation right now.
This stint from George Kurtz is blowing me away. Qualified second overall, and he has proven it is no fluke. Chandler Hull's looking to make a pass, but George has the answer, continues to keep him in the rearview mirror, holds that second overall position.
It's just that last 100 feet or so that the BMW comes on strong, but he's not close enough to do anything with it because George is doing a good job getting clean exits. The Mercedes pretty strong mid-range.
Class winner at the 12 Hours of Sebring is George Kurtz. At the 24 Hours of Spa, added the 24 Hours of Le Mans last week in the LMP2 Pro-Am subclass.
He heads off to Spa in 3 weeks' time as well to follow up on his class win from last year. Colin Brown will be teamed with him, along with Ian James, who has a firm footprint here in the SRO paddock, running the harder racing entries here this weekend. And Felipe Fraga, Brazilian, who's really quick aboard one of these Mercedes as well.
That's a stout lineup. The Riley Motorsports team has some involvement in that too. Chance to take on another one of the great endurance races around the globe. If you've never seen the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa, you gotta check it out. We're talking nearly 70 GT3 machines in the field. Only difference in the classes is difference in driver experience. It is a spectacle. Speaking from experience, I've been fortunate to be there on 2 occasions. It's something you don't soon forget, that's for sure, especially watching nearly 70 GT3 cars take that flying start up Eau Rouge and Raidillon.
It's a special race, spectacular circuit, and as you said, the competition level is insane as Chandler Hull continues to work on George Kurtz. This is where he's going to come on strong. Can he get to his flank? Yes, he does. George lets him go.
Yeah.
I think he might have got a call from the radio there. Just don't force it. You're leading Pro-Am. Don't fight too hard with Chandler Hull. Different class. He just got on the brakes and just lifted off to let him have that.
Now what we need to see, now that Hull is clear, what is his pace relative to Kenton Cook? Because over the last few laps, Kurtz and Hull both have been taking a little bit of lap time out of the race leader, Kenton Cook. There he is coming through turn 1. Now we look back to second place, Chandler Hull, but again, that gap is closing. Looked like Kenton caught some traffic. He lost a second on that lap.
1.3 seconds slower than Chandler Hull there, so that's significant. That gap is now 9 seconds, so if Chandler Hull can go to work here, minimize that gap, he'll throw it over to his teammate Billy Oberlander to go try and chase Daniel Morad.
Well, and Oberlin, he's got a CV that's longer than a Cheesecake Factory menu. And it's peppered with big race wins, championships, and still You hang the chance for a race win out in front of him, and it's like waving red meat at a rabid dog.
Well, when he drove for the Ruby Tuesday team, he knew all of the items on the menu. It always used to be a giggle after the winning interview that he was off to have a burger or something at his favorite restaurant.
Okay, now Luke is starting to close in a little bit on George Kurtz, and we'll see how much does George win the fight, because not far behind. We still have Adam Addison there lurking. He's running some good lap times too.
Yeah, that's good news for the Right Motorsports team, the 120 machine that sits behind this car right now by about a second or so. So that's going to give Skier, who'll take over the 120 machine, some life in terms of trying to chase down Colin Brown if they maintain these positions through the pit stop exchange. Good solid run here for MDK Motorsports. Spoke to the group yesterday, and one of the team members said, yeah, we're a bit frustrated, really can't seem to find the sweet spot, but this has been a really nice opening stint for Seth Lucas.
Oh, here comes Adelson into the pits. This is early, and keep in mind, this car had a mechanical issue in the GT America race earlier today. Could it be causing a problem yet again? This is before the pit window.
Maybe something's crabbing there.
Yeah.
Left rear down, maybe.
You're right. That's absolutely what the problem is, and that scuppers a podium at the minimum run in the opening 25 minutes.
It's huge in the championship, and great news for the CrowdStrike Racing entry, who give chase in the points right now.
It also promotes Samantha Tan to second in Pro-Am and Justin Wetherill up to third.
Mandatory pit stop has to happen between the 40 and 50 minute mark of the race, so we're about 14 minutes shy of that, so that's disappointing. They need a yellow to get back in the game here today, I feel.
Quick pit work by the Right Motorsports crew, but that will be costly. They still need to do their mandatory pit stop within the window, which is approaching in 13 minutes and 43 seconds.
Stay on the lead lap by a good margin there, as they're obviously leaving pit lane. This is coming down Madison Avenue for our overall leader, Kenton Cook. And I don't think there'd have been any damage. It wasn't like that that Pirelli was flailing around there.
Well, we wanted to compare lap times, Cook to Hull, and there was a big difference on the last lap. Cook ran a 47.9, Hull ran a 46.6. That was Chandler's best lap of the race.
Wow.
And only a couple tenths, less than 2 tenths off of Cook's CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race. We showed you the gap just a few laps ago, and visually you're going to see it is closing down. Kenton Cook in his GT3 debut in SRO America leads. Not this car, but now the BMW coming through. That's Chandler Hull, who runs second. He just went quicker at a 46.5.
He is absolutely flying right now. He can see Kenton Cook up ahead, and he's going to go chase him. Have to wonder if Kenton Cook's balance has gone away a little bit. They said they're learning on the setup, felt they were a little bit behind in terms of the ideal setup on that number 9 machine, even though they sat on the pole here today. So big opportunity here for Chandler. Let's see what he can do with another 12 minutes at least to go.
Well, like we said, he does have GT3 experience in a Mercedes, but it's on a different tire, and he only had 6 or 7 laps in preparation for qualifying this morning. So this is the deepest on a set of P0s that Kenton Cook has ever gone. He is off into uncharted waters right now.
Yeah, and that's what I'm wondering, whether they have lost a little bit of the edge of their performance deeper into this run, but nonetheless, it's still been a stellar job. I mean, if you told them this weekend that it'd have a 7.5 second lead, 10 minutes shy of the pit stop, it'd have taken your hand off. So let's see what we can do here, see if he struggles or not.
Car that runs between them, that's the 08 of Scott Smithson. Seems to have had some issues of its own. Not quite sure what the story is there, but Scott down in 16th. It's been a trying weekend, really a trying day today. Looked like it was shaping up to be a very good day in qualifying when Smithson was running 5th overall and had his off major impact rearwards on that car necessitated significant repairs, and quite frankly, they've not been able to recover.
Yeah, have to question whether they are able to get everything set exactly the same as when they were running those fast laps in quali, and also the confidence factor for Scott Smithson. He's still learning the trade a little bit. That will knock his confidence, having a big off like that in quali and then being sat back down behind the steering wheel for the race start.
Captain Cook has found some pace, just ran a 46.7, matching Chandler Hull, so the gap stays at 7.6. But now, let's ride on board for a lap at VIR with Seth Lucas, who is hunting down George Kurtz for 3rd overall. Seth Lucas was a busy young man. You could see it is not easy to muscle one of these GT3 cars around VIR.
That was awesome stuff. Spectacular footage there to see how you have to get around this race circuit with speed. Seth's having a really strong run here today. Hats off to him, but George Kurtz is not going anywhere, it seems. He's really solid, hitting his marks, not making any mistakes at this stage of the game, recognizing it's not a battle for class position that's chasing him right now, so he's set there. Samantha Tan is now running 2nd in Pro-Am, fighting against George Kurtz, but she sits about 18 seconds back.
And about 3 seconds ahead of this Ferrari we're looking at right here, which is the final placed car in the Pro-Am podium. Justin Wetherell, Triarci Competizione, the team, based out of Florida. Behind is Jeff Burton in the 91 from DXDT. Now, remember, we saw that contact that Jeff had with the 45 of luck. That incident was reviewed. There was a separate incident with, actually the one that we saw was with Derek DeBoer, excuse me, but both of those involved Jeff Burton. Both were reviewed, and Race Control has said both will be needing further review and will be assessed post-race.
Yeah, the one with DeBoer was really weird. I'm pretty sure that he just got into the rear diffuser. It wasn't like he ran into the back of him. So when you try to read that, I mean, he's probably gauging his distance between the rear bumper on the Aston, and he just looked like he just turned him at that critical moment when he got into the rear diffuser that sticks out beyond the rear deck lid.
Right now, Jeff focusing forward. He's turning good lap times, keeping pace with Wetherell. I'll tell you what, Wetherell's done a nice job to keep that car in contention. Ryan Diao has been really quick this weekend. That could be a car to watch in the second half of this race. Whoa, Burton caught too much curb and around he goes.
It's not a good spot to be sitting there. Ashton Harrison comes through. Here comes Derek DeBoer. You're going to move. You better make sure you're going to clear the racetrack and not be stuck in the middle of it if someone's coming down the hill. Here he has an opportunity now.
Jeff still learning this Mercedes package, raced Lamborghinis the last few years. Now under the DXDT tent. That's the sister car to the 08 of Scott Smithson, and again, it just seems like that team is a little bit snake-bitten, Calvin. Even weekends where they show pace, something just seemingly always goes a little bit amiss.
Yeah, I think they're trying really hard, and sometimes when you're chasing things, they don't just naturally come your way. So I think they get a solid result under their belt. Maybe it'll get a little bit easier, but nonetheless not ideal for Corey Lewis. He's going to have a ton of gap to make up now with that spin and loss of time for Jeff.
He's on board with Samantha Tan, running 7th.
Spoke to Nick Janssen, who's a mentor and driver coach this week, and let's take another look and see how this one, oh, this is a different incident. This is Charlie Luck going for a rough ride there on the exit hog pin as well.
Whoa, took out some of the VP signage, and sometimes there could be some sandbags or other ballast to hold those things in place. If you can hit those signs wrong, they look innocuous enough, but they can do some damage. He might have escaped though. Did drop a lap. We saw Kenton Cook, the leader, just ahead, and tell you what, Kenton has done a nice job. He's solidified his lap times. Oh, Barletta's off again in the Turner car. That's happened right in front of the overall leader too. Kenton comes through the cloud of dust. He's got to be thinking, what do I have to do to have a clean lap around this place? Oh, he's forced way offline and into the dust there. I was about to say, his lap times have really solidified in the high 46s, and Chandler Hull might have burned through his Pirellis trying to first pass George Kurtz and then chase down Kenton Cook. But I still think that Bimmerworld car, the 94 BMW, might be in a really good spot to challenge in the second half of this race.
Yeah, absolutely. Shame that Vin had that spin there, because his lap time's been really good. He's been running 48s compared to the leader's laps in the 46 range. So for his level of experience in a GT3 car, that is really stepping up big time here today. But he'll learn from the couple of little mistakes. We're not sure if the first one there was any argy-bargy involved, but nonetheless, it's a long stint here to be behind the wheel of one of these machines.
That's true. Vin in the Turner car, still very new to this. Hull for Bimmerworld, a bit more experience, although still pretty young in his career. Has run a lot of races in a short amount of time. As his number 94 poised, perhaps, to challenge once we get into that pit window, which approaches here in 4 minutes' time. This is the team that appeared to be on the back foot all race weekend at COTA until the races. And then all of a sudden, things broke their way, and Racer's Edge had a couple really strong results.
Yeah, they did. They currently run 6 of the 6 pro runners in this field. So Ashton did not have a great qualifying run this morning. Had a little incident late in the day yesterday where she tore up the front of the race car, actually coming into the brake zone that she's approaching right now, into the roller coaster. Just got a little bit wide there and tore up the right front. Mario had a solid qualifying run later in the morning, so he's got some pace potential here, but these are the championship contenders right now. Have a couple of wins on the year. They come into this race 17 points behind the 28 squad. And right now, VIRginia sits 1 position ahead of them in class, 6 overall on the road as Ashton runs 9.
But that could change because VIRginia has now caught Manny Franco, and this is a pair of pro class runners, 5th and 6th overall, 4th and 5th within their class. That's the Canadian Daniel Morad getting suited up to take control of the leading car. The lead is 6.8 seconds, Cook back to Hull, but this is a good fight here with Franco and VIRginia scrapping over 5th and 6th.
Yeah, and typically with the Pro-Am lineups, you're going to get your stronger driver in as quickly as you can, so that'll be the second phase of this race. So I think once we get into that pit window, which opens in about 3 minutes' time, then we're going to see some pit stop activity. Minimum stop time today is 65 seconds from pit in to pit out with a 4-tire change, top up with fuel, and a driver change as well.
See that window open in just under 3 minutes' time. And it's not a situation where the leader gets first dibs. It's whoever happens to be in position to take advantage of it when that clock ticks under 50 minutes to go. And can start making that dive to the pit lane. And here in race 1 of the weekend, the less experienced drivers in the Pro-Am cars, typically it's a pretty early call to the pit lane for most of the field.
Eric VIRginia has got his head down, done a really solid job here, thinking about the big picture of a championship. It's damage limitation when you don't have the pace at a particular circuit. It's working Manny Franco over here down into turn 1, into the horseshoe.
Chandler Hull must have had a slip up on that lap. The lead went from 6.8 to 7.9 seconds. 1 lap to the next. That's 1st and 2nd. This again is 5th and 6th overall, but 4th and 5th in class. Here comes VIRginia. Late lunge to the inside. Does Franco see him? He does. Gives him enough room, and they do coexist.
Yeah, that was smart racecraft there by Manny Franco, recognizing it, but just ran a really wide line through there so he didn't have to overslow. Eric had to tighten his hands once he realized that Manny wasn't going to let him go. That's quality right there.
2 up-and-comers. and are going to be around, it would seem, for a long, long time. Manny Franco, in just his second year of racing, first at the GT3 level, first full season at least, ran 2 races at Sebring last year. And for Eric VIRGinia, this is his first chance at GT3 racing after winning a title in GT4 last year.
And he's doing a really nice job. Big commitment through the high-speed S's, right on edge, but not out of control. And here comes that Porsche. Looks like that gains a little bit down Madison Avenue on the Ferrari.
The Floridian takes a look, keeps it wide, now cuts it back to the inside, to the apex, puts the power down. This is roller coaster. Turns 14 through 16, and then hogpen. This dash back onto the front straightaway. Too early to make that pit call now, Cal. Still need to wait another 24 seconds, so the next time around for the leaders, they'll have their first crack to come to pit lane if they choose to.
They do. And the 9 car recognized that Kenton Cook's doing a really nice job, so I'll be curious to see if they take the first opportunity to pit the overall leader and the leader in the pro class and get Daniel Morad behind the wheel. VIRginia's continuing to work. Manny Franco has the inside. VIRginia will try and get down to the inside. Rolls it up a little bit. Tries to get Manny Franco to commit and comes back at him. He likes this move. He's done it before today. Tries to do a cut and paste, but Manny Franco again runs that wide line there through turn 4.
Parry and riposte from Manny Franco. Able to fend off the lunge from Eric VIRginia's, the championship leader. Meanwhile, Racer's Edge makes the early pit call. The battle, though, still rages between VIRginia's and Franco.
You talked about it's not always the leader has that first opportunity when that pit stop window opens to make the pit stop early. So we got a little bit of jeopardy. Should there be a full course yellow or something, that can certainly affect the strategy.
Harrison out, Farnbacher in. This is Jeff Burton, who had that spin and back on just a few moments ago, turning over to Corey Lewis. Pedro Torres has had a fraught afternoon. He's getting out. Spencer Pompelli will replace him. Big question mark is, what do you do if you're CR3 with Kenton Cook? He's had good pace, doesn't have much experience with this team or this car, and they do call him to pit lane from the overall lead.
Yeah, it's risky if you stay out. I elect to bring him in. What Manny Franco does here, he did a brilliant job resisting the challenge here of Eric VIRginia's. George Kurtz is in as we expected. Seth Lucas will turn it over to Trenton Estep.
2 very strong performances from Kurtz to run in the top 3 overall in his stint against some fairly stout names. And for Seth Lucas, in his young career, arguably his most impressive performance yet. We're getting word Kenton Cook might have been mixed up and stopped in the wrong pit stall. The good news is they did have an 8-second lead. We'll see how costly that ends up being. Cook is out. He's helping Daniel Morad, the Canadian, strap in to this TR3 Mercedes.
Wow. How pivotal could that be in terms of losing a little of that margin?
Well, let's keep in mind, Kenton is running 2 series this weekend, his full season deal with Random Vandals
That's
Racing.
Right. Great point.
So he could have gone there. You see the tap on the helmet of the fueler. Stop is done. Didn't look like there was much weight. So it looks like pretty quick from the TR3 boys, but how much did they lose from the confusion in the pits?
Oh, and Orblin is side by side.
Wow.
That's your answer right there.
Yep, that answers that question. Here comes Jan Halen on the attack, too.
Yeah, he's trying to get back on the lead lap.
Correct. That's in the Wright Motorsports Porsche that splits the top 2. So the leaders in pro, at least the presumptive leaders, once things cycle through, that will be Morad in the gray and orange Mercedes, and Oberlin in the number 94 car from Bimmerworld, the BMW. This battle has resumed with 2 different drivers behind the wheel. Colin Brown in this Mercedes, and now it's Trenton Estep for MDK Motorsports in the Porsche, and he is hands and elbows.
Yeah, this is straight out of the pits. This is commitment that these drivers have. Tires that come out of the ovens, of course, so they're not stone cold, but nonetheless, they're not in their sweet spot just yet. It's very edgy. This week, you can make up a little bit of time as a driver if you're willing to commit. But there's a bit of risk with it at the same time. We saw Kenton Cook when he got out of the car, put his hand in the air like a signal. Hey guys, my fault. Cost us a little bit with that one.
Oh, and it's off for Morad, and he loses the lead. Oberlin is through.
That tricky approach to Oaktree. Got a feeling he must have just got wide there. As we said, the tires aren't totally into their sweet spot yet. Critical error by Daniel Morad, who tends to shine here at VIR. Aublin, once everything cycles through, see how it develops. This is turn 11. Gets in a little bit wide, like he can't get the car turned. This is what we talked about. You overcommit to there, you just can't get it turned. He got lucky, he didn't get into the fence, and Aublin pounces.
Very rare miscue from Daniel Morad. You could tell he was pushing. For all it was worth, just overstepped the edge by what, 2 or 3 inches? That's all it takes.
Just committing, knew that he's in a fierce battle. He had now that probably wouldn't have happened without Kenton Cook losing a little bit of that margin. He probably wouldn't have pushed just as hard. He could see that bright white BMW behind him, and that forced him to commit to that corner a bit more than he needed to.
Looks like everyone has made their pit stops, so we have cycled through to Oberlin leading Morad by 2.2 seconds. Then it's Colin Brown who leads in the Pro-Am class, running 3rd overall. Seth Lucas, who we were on board with a few moments ago, runs 4th. Alessandro Balzan now driving that Conquest car from the Conquest Racing machine, runs in the 5th spot. I think we're going to have a chance, though, to hear from Kenton Cook with Amanda Busick.
Ken, it was a stellar stint that I think you came in with an 8-second lead on the field. What happened on the pit stop?
Yeah, coming down pit lane, I saw orange and thought that was my pit board, and turns out there's quite a few orange pit boards out here. So I stopped in the wrong box and eventually got back to the box, but we lost too much time. So I'm disappointed in myself, and I feel bad for these guys who've worked really hard. And unfortunately, yeah, that was my bad. That was a big mistake on my part that I've never made before. So I'm a little disappointed, but I don't know if there was something wrong with the car. About 3/4 of the way through, the balance shifted a lot in one lap, and well, Daniel's in it, and we'll see what he has to say. But I was able to manage and come back and make a huge mistake, so I apologize to everyone.
Daniel had one of those rare miscues at the oak tree from him. Can there be a little more patience back into the team today?
Yeah, we would hope so. You know, things happen, mistakes happen, people are human, and that's just what I got to tell myself. I haven't made a mistake like that, and God knows how long. And same for probably Daniel. I don't know what happened. I didn't see anything, but. Yeah, we're all human. We all make mistakes, and we have to do better. I have to do better.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
He's being hard on himself. I mean, to be thrown in at the deep end like this, and not, like you said, he only did 6 laps yesterday. What was that, 1 stop? And suddenly you're, oh, Auberlin, big mistake there. Gets over the curb.
That's
going to lose a ton of time. Where's Morad? He goes through for the lead.
How about that? VIR giveth, VIR taketh away. Morad back to the point after a rare mistake from the BMW veteran Bill Auberlin. And here comes Colin Brown.
Wow. You do not see this typically from drivers like Morad, from drivers like Bill Auberlin. That shows the level of commitment and how on edge they are here at this race circuit.
Holy smokes. You could go a whole season without either of those guys making errors like we've seen, but you know what? We talk about this place, how you have to live on the edge to extract speed around VIR, and it punishes you if you step over. Usually it punishes you more than this, though.
Let's take a look here. Just looked like he got into the curb big time and just ran over it and just unsettled the car. He's off in the dirt, it's a little bit off camber, trying to get it back on the road, and Morad was close enough. He was actually 3/10 quicker on that previous lap than Bill Auberlin as well, so he settled back into a rhythm.
This is your Pro-Am leader, Colin Brown. And you know, we talked about this in the qualifying show, Calvin. If you want one car that was consistently quick across both qualifying sessions, it was this one. They'll start up front tomorrow, as they did today. That figures to bode very, very well for them as they look to make some ground up in the championship.
It really does. It's a great opportunity with the 120 having their issues here today.
Seeing some really quick lap times on full fuel tanks here right now. Colin Brown down in the 45s, a 45.9. We see Neil Verhagen at a 45.6.
As does Adam Christodoulou. You got Robbie Foley at a 45.8. 45.7 for VHC. Pros are doing their business.
Without a doubt. Lap from VIRGinia, though, super impressive. Talked about him in the qualifying show, young American, but he's done most of his racing over in Europe, part of the BMW driver pool. Get plugged in alongside Samantha Tam this weekend. As far as we know, that's just the plan for one weekend, but if he can perform like this, there's a pretty good chance we'll see more of him over the course of the year.
Yeah, somewhat of an audition. I mean, he's been placed there by BMW. He's one of their junior drivers, so they certainly believe in him, but sometimes it's more than just pace. It's chemistry, how you fit within the group, how you respond to the engineering core there as well. But he's a talented young man, and he's going to try and take the most of this opportunity.
Former class winner at the 24 Hours of the Nürburgring for BMW is Neil VIRGinia. This is another newcomer to the championship this weekend. Bartone Brothers Racing with Real-Time Racing. The team has been around all season, but they've been running as an AM class entry. It's been Anthony Bartone and Andy Pilgrim all year, but Adam Christodoulou, the Brit, has stepped in, starting here at VIR. There'll be a Pro-Am entry the rest of the way, and Christodoulou has set the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, he's a AMG driver, and he knows how to wheel one of these machines. He knows the racetrack, raced here in Star Mazda back in 2009, also ran a sports car race in 2010, so, and he's going to bring a lot to the table here. I think he's going to really shorten the learning curve with this team running the Mercedes and really start to point them in the right direction.
Turned into something of a Nürburgring specialist for the three-pointed star in recent years, and is part of the Mercedes driver pool, officially termed a Mercedes expert driver, and there's a lot of sim racing that goes along with that. Daniel Morad actually holds the same status for Mercedes. And Christodoulou very, very quick, and great to see him get another chance to race here stateside. So we check in with the overall leader. That's Daniel Morad coming through. Behind is Bill Auberlen, who's back on the pace after his off a couple of laps ago, running marginally quicker than Morad the last time probably. Then third overall, the leader in Pro-Am, that's Colin Brown right here, running laps equal to the top two. Big smile on George Kurtz's face, and why not?
Yeah. Been a big week, busy.
No kidding.
He's back on doing his business, his regular job, let's call it, on Monday immediately after that big win in Le Mans. So it's a busy schedule, but he handles it incredibly well.
What do his next couple weeks look like? How about 6 hours of racing in Watkins Glen and 24 hours at Spa the weekend after? Unbelievable.
He loves it though.
Yep.
He puts in his craft.
Those are the top three overall. You see Colin Brown coming through right here, leading again in Pro-Am. Behind him, you'll find Trenton Estep. And then the Ferrari ace, Alessandro Balzan, 5th overall, 4th in the Pro class, but not quite running the same lap times as the top four. Top four basically all in the 45s or just above. Morad, the slowest of the top four, actually, at a 46.1.
Yeah, and Balzan's fast about 46.4 compared to Ryan Dial, who's aboard a similar Ferrari at 145.9. So once again, Dial showcasing that that car has pace, team has pace, he has pace aboard that new Ferrari.
New Porsche at the moment with the Texan, Trenton Estep. Now lives Ohio, I believe, Columbus area, where this MDK team is based.
I'd say this is the most solid day they've had.
Yep.
I mean, I know they've had podiums this year already, but I mean, in terms of pace compared to the front of the field, this has been really good.
Totally agree. Estep, the more seasoned of the two, at not even 24 years of age, but does have more GT3 experience, former single-make Porsche champion here in North America, going back to 2018. Seeing a lot of similar hand movement out of Trenton that we saw from his teammate Seth in the first stint.
Yeah, they're having to work it to keep the car on the island, but they're still keeping the car with great pace. Looking at Robbie Foley here. Lap down after the couple of moments for his teammate Vin Barletta, but nonetheless that Turner Motorsports car is showing pace here today, and they start from the pole tomorrow.
Talked a little bit about Alessandro Balzan running here in the 5th spot. The car started by Manny Franco from Conquest Racing, and Amanda has more.
Yeah, and as you guys were talking about the new chassis that's running here this weekend, and when I talked to Balzana about just the differences in the car, he said, well, they actually feel pretty similar, but I like this one a little better. But he said the biggest key that has been developing this season is that in terms of setup, it's becoming more of a copy-paste between him and Manny Franco, and he said that that advantage is just undeniable when it comes to how this car is running.
Well, you need two drivers that like the same things. I mean, there's the cockpit compatibility as well in terms of all of the ergonomics, but more importantly, the balance of the race car. It's going to be hard to compromise one driver or the other with the setup that the other one can't drive. So if you're liking the same things, that's just going to drive this team forward. And Balzana has the experience to maybe to adapt a little bit more, but Manny Franco, I just feel, is a natural. And they got a lot of speed potential between them. I think they're going to come on a bit stronger as this season progresses and they get more and more mileage with this new chassis.
Well, look, this is a pro-class car, but let's not make any mistake about it. Manny Franco is only in his first full-time GT3 season. He's never even done a full season of anything prior to this year. So very wet behind the ears when it comes to this racing game. And if you can find a way to get him to like the same setup that Balzan can extract speed from, that's going to make them a player moving forward.
That's huge. Just getting back to the Pro-Am lineups, you're allowed a Pro of any grading, but you must have a silver-rated driver in the second seat. Pro-Am must have a bronze. Up front is Tyler on board here with Neil Verhagen. Only sitting in second in the Pro-Am, 6 overall, but Oberlin in a similar BMW has not given up hope. Sits 1.4 seconds back of Daniel Morad.
He's been chipping away, and you know what? I go back to that Kenton Cook interview where he said 3/4 of the way through the stint, the handling really changed on that Mercedes. We should be approaching that point here very soon. That's something to keep an eye on. I mean, we noticed the lap times drop for Kenton Cook there for 3 or 4 laps before he maybe made a few cockpit adjustments or simply adapted his style to what he was feeling. But let's keep an eye on if Morad can keep the pace up as we get deeper into this run.
Yeah, countered that with the fact he felt something that almost broken, so he struggled with that for the rest of the stint. It wasn't like it's just a tired deck falling off a cliff type scenario, so maybe Daniel's already been dealing with that throughout the course of this stint, but nonetheless, Bill Oberlin is not going away. He's hovering there in the backdrop. Any sort of traffic or any little blip by Morad, Oberlin would love to put straight the little mistake he made there. Both these lead drivers had a mistake today, but they run one too.
Whoa!
Oh, there it is. That's the moment. Here comes Oberlin. He's going to have a monster run down this front straight.
My, oh my. Daniel Morad dirt tracking through Hogpen. Somehow it looked like he kept his foot in. It did lose some time, about a half a second, in fact. But that could have been catastrophic.
Great save, and as you said, to lose that much time, I thought he was going to lose a couple of seconds there, just getting it back together. Let's take another look at it. Up on the curb there, and just gets a little bit of oversteer coming through the corner, so that may be the balance that you're talking about, Ryan, that Kenton Cook was dealing with later in the stint.
That cut about half of the gap away from Oberlin to Morad, and yeah, here we are in that point in the stint where perhaps the Mercedes handling is starting to go by the wayside. Amanda, let's learn more.
Yeah, I was just talking to Kenton Cook about that with his stint and how the Mercedes evolved during his time behind the wheel, and he said it was almost like a light switch, that it just became super slippery out there about halfway through.
We're seeing it. I think it was on full display.
Yes, actually happened. That is the case, and it wasn't just a little mistake by Daniel. It's happening earlier in the stage of the stint than it did with Kenton.
I don't know if there are that many drivers that could have caught that slide. That was some car control from Daniel Morad.
To lose so little time.
Right.
That was like a big moment. I thought Oberlin was going to be right there and ready to pounce, but he lost half the gap, but not all of it.
That's right. Now, Oberlin will have seen that, of course, and he knows that Morad may be susceptible. Can he start to pile on some pressure? Make Daniel uncomfortable. Looked a little bit more steady, a lot more steady, frankly, through Hogpen that time through.
And that's the quality of a pro driver, is putting that out of your mind, attacking that corner the next time like you had done previously, not be too tentative through there and lose a big chunk of time feeling the corner out again. That's really what separates the great guys from the average ones.
I did see him on Madison Avenue, Morad that is, weaving a little bit. It didn't look like that was trying to break the toe. Trying to clean the tires, or?
Yeah, a little bit of a traction issue there coming off the horseshoe there. He's not getting the power down quite as effectively. It's going to be a long stint for Daniel Morad to hang on here.
Well, we heard from Ketten say it felt like something might have been amiss with the car, so maybe is Daniel putting some weight on different corners of the car, trying to feel if everything mechanically is still sound.
Yeah, that would be pretty severe to be driving down a straightaway trying to feel that out, but nonetheless, he's obviously not super comfortable. And look at Auburn, he's closer than he's ever been since losing the lead here a few laps ago.
Oberlin chomping at the bit. He had the lead, but he couldn't hold it. He had a little slide off track of his own, gave the lead back to Daniel Morad, and has been in recovery mode ever since. And this is as close as he has been, within half a second. And the BMW is strong, especially in the second half of this 4,000-foot back straightaway.
Yeah, right here is where it seems to come on a little bit stronger than the Mercedes. From about this point forward, all the way to the brake zone. You just sneak up on him by half a car length, maybe a full car length there by the time they hit the brake pedal.
A little bit of traffic up ahead, but that's Jan Halen, who has, thanks to the two offs from these two, managed to unlap himself. If they could get a full course yellow, that could bring the 45 Wright Motorsports Porsche back into the mix. Colin Brown continues to hold steady. Third overall, but easily the leader in the Pro-Am class. Neil Verhagen, his closest pursuer, is all the way down in 6th and is about 10 seconds or thereabouts behind this fight for the overall lead. And a couple seconds then closer to Colin Brown.
A little cleaner there coming off turn 1, but he's having to really open up his hands there to maintain that, and he's sliding the car right now. That's not ideal. There's still 30 minutes to go almost in this race. So I just think he's lost a little bit of rear bite with this Mercedes right now. He's having to work his lines to try and minimize that damage coming off some of these corners.
What's available to the driver in cockpit in terms of adjustments you could make to try and steady the ship?
Well, if it's entry, you can work with the brake bars a little bit, but if it's corner exit, it's all about the sway bars, the adjustable sway bars, to just try and get the balance a little bit better. You try and stiffen up the front a little bit just to transfer the weight a little bit better to that rear axle.
Traction control?
Yeah, there's TC settings, but they're pretty intrusive. I mean, they're not like linear, do you know what I mean? You start jumping around with that can take away a lot of power. It's really done with the driver's foot at this level, I feel. The AM drivers, they may start to click around on that, but I don't think the adjustments are subtle enough on most of these TC programs.
Closes in at the top of roller coaster. Now this plunge down the hill, it equates to multiple stories of elevation drop just through a couple of corners, bottoming out here through Hogpen in the run down the pit straight.
2017, when Daniel Morad really got our attention here in a similar Mercedes, he held off Jeroen Bleekemolen. And Bleekemolen, at the time, he's still regarded as a top shelf driver, but at the time he was the man.
Right.
And everyone expected Jeroen just to drive by him and disappear off into the distance. And Daniel Morad won that race. And that was a big surprise, and I think it really made a huge statement and put Daniel on the map in terms of GT3 racing.
Came out of the single-seater ranks to Daniel Morad from Ontario, Canada. Won an F2000 championship in 2006, won the Formula BMW USA championship
Farnbacher
a
in
year
trouble.
later. Yeah, he
Down
had
a tire.
just set his fastest race lap too.
What a disaster for these guys this weekend.
That car was quick though in Mario's hands in qualifying for race 2, so there's the silver lining for Racer's Edge. Let's see if we can see it. Oh, boy, he did a great job to keep that from being any worse than it was.
The timing of it couldn't have been better right at pit in.
Yep. That had a sketchy part of the track to have it let go. It kind of looked like maybe he had backed out of it,
Yeah, I
feeling
think he
something
felt
was
it.
amiss.
He came down the roller coaster, he probably felt it and knew it was a drift and was probably maybe going to try and get to pit lane, but just ran out of road.
It is remarkable, though, that he had just gone with his fastest lap of the race just prior to that issue.
Incredible. The thing
these curbs here, if you get off the backside, and particularly as we get deeper into the weekend, that rut just gets deeper and deeper, and you can sort of cut the inside sidewall if you're dragging the car back on. I was looking at it on the track walk the other night. There's a couple of areas, particularly through turn 5, where we saw Orblin have his moment. If you're kind of inside that and then the car starts to slide across, it kind of hits the inside shoulder. There's nothing the track can really do about it, because the drivers, if you fill in the little berm there, the drivers continue to drive over it and develop a new rut.
Colin Brown picking up right where George Kurtz left off. Brilliant opening stint from George, who qualified on the outside of the front row overall and stayed there most of the race. Ultimately did drop a spot to Chandler Hull, ran 3rd as he made his way into his pit box, and now it is his longtime driver, coach, and good friend Colin Brown, who has had a remarkable racing career. You think about bursting onto the sports car scene at a very young age. He went the NASCAR route for a while, was actually the NASCAR Truck Series Rookie of the Year. If you go back to 2008, he was part of the Roush driver development program for Ford. Kind of looked like he might be going stock car racing. That dried up. Returned to sports cars, and he's been a winner in GTs and especially at high downforce prototypes.
Yeah, he really has had a remarkable career to win 2 major 24-hour races in terms of the Rolex, and obviously Le Mans just last week, and a chance to go to Spa and maybe get another one. He is really an amazing young talent, has a great relationship with George. I mean, they've been together for a long, long time, total belief in one another. They have a lot of fun. Saw them out to dinner last night when we were eating, Ryan, and just embracing this opportunity here this weekend to get back in the championship lead.
Have a very good chance of doing so as they run. Looking in here, though, on a battle between 2 cars from different classes. That's Ryan Dial around McAleer for the 7th position overall. A couple Scotsmen going at it here, and let's learn a little bit more about the story from RS1 with Amanda.
I was just talking to Eric Filgaris about their weekend, and they've just been struggling with the Porsche. Said that they figured something out ahead of this race. Eric was really happy with his stint, but said he messed up on the pit stop, somehow got the Porsche down into neutral and just glided to the pit box and then couldn't get his belts, and just said it was just chaos trying to get Steven into that car. But as I was talking to Eric, the 93 made its way into pit lane. It did not sound that great as it was making its way to its pit stall, and Eric said, well, maybe there's the silver lining right there.
Well, it has to be, because they're running a distant 5th right now is RS1. Stephen McAleer and Eric Filgaris, that's in the pro class. The only good news is that the car they are fighting most closely in the championship is having an even worse day.
Yeah, the team that could make a little bit of ground is the 53 squad with the MDK Motorsports Porsche. They came into the race 33 points back of the leaders. It'd make up 5 points as they sit right now, running in 3rd, with the leader in the championship running 5th.
Little battle developing between Valentin Haseklo, VHC as we like to call him, and Adam Christodoulou. That is 9th and 10th overall, just off the podium in the Pro-Am ranks. Just got word that there is a post-race time penalty for this car, the 91. They were short on their pit stop, so they'll have 3.98 seconds added to their time, and that's calculated. If it's a small infraction,
under
there's
a second, I think it's like 5-fold or something.
Yes.
So I'd assume they're about 8/10 shy.
There you go.
Start times that by 5. That'll be the time penalty.
But this car also has 2 other incidents involving it under investigation from the opening stint. So time to break out the Sword of Damocles reference. I think they've got something dangling over them right now. Not quite sure how this race is going to unfold for them. Still a lot to be decided off track and by the stewards.
Yeah, it's like an episode of Columbo, isn't it? Meanwhile, Daniel Morad has stemmed the tide a little bit at the front. It's still very close. Colin Brown seems to have a little bit more pace, but all of these drivers doing a really consistent job. Morad seems to have found the balance in that Mercedes to not allow Orblin to get any closer.
Oh, Daniel dropped a couple wheels there, just barely. Saw him kick up some
He's
dust.
wide again, a little bit on entry, just a little bit wide. Didn't commit like he did on the opening lap once he got behind the wheel, but just a little bit wide in the grey initially. Had the car slowed down enough to still carve through the corner. Such a tricky corner. It catches you out. You just can't believe you've made that mistake. It's like someone just pulls the rug out from underneath the front tires just as you're trying to get them to turn and get back to the apex in turn 12.
Again, you can see the BMW of Opel creeping closer down the backstretch, but not close enough to mount any kind of challenge on the Canadian Daniel Morad, who continues to show the way with 21 minutes to go.
Curious to know what Colin Brown's going to do here. If he does get closer to Oberlin, does he start to try and fight him? Oberlin's not going to want to give it up, A, because he's a feisty racer, and B, he doesn't want someone gapping him to the class leader in pro. And for Colin Brown, he's going to know that 93 car's having a bad day. I'm sure that information has been relayed to him via the radio if he didn't see the car on track. And he knows it'll be a big point stage just sitting where he sits. But racers are racers, and they see a car in front, they want to pass it.
I mean, it's so easy for me to sit here and say, you know, why take the risk? But you know, you're the former pro racer. You sparred with F1 and IndyCar greats, sports car greats. There is something at the gut of every racer that tells them to fight any chance you get, right?
You do, and it's not like it's a regular question that I pose. As see VHC a little bit wide there. Looked like he had a ton of understeer on the entry to turn 1. But anyway, yeah, I don't pose the question often, but I'm surprised at the answer I get about, you know, how much is the overall win valuable? Yeah, we want a big time. It's strange when you think about trying to capture a championship, whether that would be a factor.
Derek DeBoer has to feel like maybe he got roughed up a little bit in that opening stint.
A couple of times.
Yes.
Had the attack by Manny Franco on the run on the opening lap to turn 3, and then got turned by Jeff Burton down in turn 1.
That incident, the second of those under review, will be assessed post-race. It's one of 2 incidents, as mentioned, for the 91 that have not been adjudicated just yet.
Solid day for this group. Car has shown pace. They'll treat that as almost a victory to say, you know what, our car is the fastest car in this race. That gives them a lot of confidence for the second half of this season.
Thought it was interesting. So Christodoulou driving now. This car started by Anthony Bartone, part of the famous drag racing family. Saw some quotes from Anthony asking him basically, were you ever interested in going drag racing? And he said, no, I think I'll pass on strapping myself to a bomb. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he said.
He did use those words, yeah.
Yeah, well, in some order. Not sure I got him exactly right, but the message he was conveying remains the same. But he said, you know, trying to stay flat-footed up the climbing S's here. It's a different kind of crazy, but I'm all in on that.
Yeah, I think he snapped his fingers when he said, I don't want to race where the race is over like that.
Right.
And but it's fun. I mean, they have an interesting dynamic. I saw them together, dad and son, at Coda, and his dad is full on in terms of his support. I mean, he made the right choice in picking Andy Pilgrim as the person to guide and direct Anthony, give him the direction, give him the focus, and making him understand what it takes to be a pro racing driver. It's not just being quick behind the wheel and maybe have a natural ability. It takes a lot more about that than that. You got to fully immerse yourself in the game. You got to be fit. You got to get your sleep right. You got to get your diet right. You need to have the right people around you.
And that's where Andy Pilgrim continues to be a huge part of this program. Not driving anymore, started the season as a co-driver in the AM ranks, but elected to step aside as Anthony continues to progress. They feel like he's at the point now where he needs to start fighting for positions that really matter, not just as a lone AM class car mixing it up with pro-ams and pros, but now there are real stakes here at play. And credit to Andy for seeing maybe at this stage in his career he doesn't have the pace to help them fight quite at that level, but still being super engaged in every aspect of Anthony's development.
I mean, Andy's in his mid-60s, so he's
Right.
not going to compete with some of these young kids, even though Oberlin's doing it at 55 this year. I think he turns 55 in October. So, but nonetheless, it's a different game, and he knew what his role was. And he recognized, listen, we've done as much as we can, getting the AM victories with really no competition. Now we need to step it up a little bit, bring in an AMG driver, and let Anthony learn from him, from the goalpost being pushed a little bit further, the bar being a little bit higher in terms of what your teammate is doing in the same machinery.
Top 3 overall, covered by less than 2 seconds. Morad for TR3. That's the Mercedes at the front of the train. Right in the middle, the meat and the sandwich is Bill Overland, runs second in the Pro class. Right here for Bimmer World, and just behind is the Pro-Am class leader, Colin Brown, matching the race pace of these top 2 cars, but not yet showing any willingness to mix it up in pursuit of a better overall finishing position.
No, I think he's happy just to sit there. That would be my take on it, but you never know. But Morad's done a nice job here. I don't think the car is super comfortable. I really don't, and he's having to really manage this. It's been a long, long stint after the mistake to try and maintain this gap, keep the pressure off. Auckland is hovering. He hasn't really been hurt with traffic or anything like that to negate the lead he has.
It's been a smooth run for the CrowdStrike by Riley team, Amanda.
Yeah, you were talking about one of the cars that were motivating Colin Brown having struggles. You have to imagine it's also the 120 with Elliott Skier behind the wheel right now of the Pro-Am category. These are the only 2 cars that have scored wins here this season. But I was talking to Elliott prior to his stint, and before Adam had that flat tire, he said everything, this is the best this weekend has gone for us so far this weekend here at VIR. And when you think of the struggles a team goes through, I remember a conversation with Brian Till earlier in the conversation. While these teams want the win, sometimes it's the averages that end up mattering in a season.
For sure. This was a change in position, though, while Amanda was giving the update. Neil Verhagen around Alessandro Balzan. This is an overall position change, not a class position change, but Neil in the ST Racing BMW now finds himself in the 5th spot, and this has been a really strong stint for him. He's been running great lap times, tracked the veteran Balzan down, and there you just saw him make the pass.
Yeah, really nice solid day for young Neil to jump into this opportunity and deal with it with a lot of maturity for his age. Spoke to Nick Johnson, who's the driver coach and mentor for Samantha Tan. I said, how's it going? He said he's fitting really well. He obviously doesn't have the experience of John Edwards, who we're reluctant to see go, but nonetheless, I think he's certainly up to the task, and he's proven that here today.
On pace for their first podium of the season. Right now, second in Pro-Am. Speaking about ST Racing, not so fortunate here, right, Motorsports. You heard Amanda's update there, and it's just not been a smooth weekend for Elliott Skier and Adam Adelson, and they've been living a charmed existence in this step to GT3. Every once in a while, though, you hit a pothole or 2, and it looks like that's been the case today.
Yeah, and they're going to lose a massive chunk of that lead, 36 points. That's going to be at least halved, I would think, with Colin Brown currently looking at full points here today, along with his teammate George Kurtz, of course. So Brown's going to start from the front row as well tomorrow, despite having an off in qualifying down in that tricky turn 11 area. Got lucky they didn't cause a resident lose his laps. Auckland got really wide as through that turn 3 exit curbing there. Nearly lost the rear end of the car, but kept it together.
That was one lap ago, yeah. That one looked like a pretty big moment. I'm not sure that either of the top 2 cars are all that comfortable, to be entirely honest. But the thing is, I'm not sure anyone's super comfortable. They've been able to manage being uncomfortable and still be quick.
Yeah, and I mean, hats off to Pirelli, actually, because, I mean, when we think about tire degradation, I mean, Morad's last lap was only half a second off his best lap of the day. That's really great. That's the sort of consistency you want out of a tire.
Down to 12 minutes, 43 seconds to go. It's been an entertaining race, a clean race up to this point, knock on wood.
I think that Morad's just found a rhythm now. He's found a way of driving this race car where he's not abusing the tires. I really felt when Auckland was getting close, he was pushing the car beyond what it wanted to give him. I think Auckland's pace kind of plateaued a little bit. That allowed Daniel to kind of find his groove and didn't make his balance get worse and worse. If you overdrive one axle or the other, you're just going to have real problems by the end of one of these long races.
Well, this would easily be the best result of the season for TR3. He did stand on the podium in the Pro-Am ranks in the second race of the season. That was at Sonoma several months ago, but they've been languishing around 5th to 8th in every race since then. This would be a really big deal, especially as they make that jump to the Pro class just for the weekend. Again, if you're just joining us, Siad Gondor, who normally drives alongside Daniel Morad had a commitment, vacation with the family already on the books for this weekend. He knew he wasn't going to be here, but everyone from TR3 quick to offer their thanks to Ziad for allowing them to be on site and have a chance to race in the pro class. And what a great selling point for this team about the quality. It's their first year running Mercedes, and they are out there beating the likes of Riley and DXDT, other Mercedes teams with lengthy pedigrees.
I was about to say exactly the same thing. It's really showcasing what that team can do with the right equipment and the right drivers. Long-time Ferrari entrants, of course, and been switching around a little bit over the last 2 or 3 seasons. We see the 93 car run relatively slowly on the racetrack, had that cut-down tire about 15 minutes ago for Mario Farnbacher.
It's a tough weekend to have a bad day in the pro class, because normally, worst case scenario is you score, as long as you make it halfway, you score 5th place points. But the addition of TR3 means now having a bad day means they score 6th place points, and who knows, that could make a big difference at the end of this season. Keep in mind, they went down to the wire in the Pro-Am Championship last year. We had 3 or 4 cars within less than 10 points at the end of the 2022 season.
Hagen is running the fastest laps of the race right now. I mean, really quick, really solid stint. He's taken off from Balzan a little bit, even though it wasn't for class position. He's now 3 seconds down the road compared to the Ferrari that's behind it.
It's been a busy year for ST Racing, not just racing here stateside. There is Samantha Tan, I should say the eponymous Samantha Tan, the ST and ST Racing. She looks on after starting this car. Busy note, not just here in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, but also in the European equivalent, where if she stood on the class podium the last time out, would have been at Paul Ricard.
For Nick Johnson, he does a similar job to what Andy Pilgrim has been doing with Anthony Bartone in terms of more the off-track stuff, as much another cut-down tire. So not sure if they're just running a little aggressive in terms of the tire camber geometry setup, or whether they're just hitting a curve that's continuing to cut down that left rear.
Tough day for a good little team. Racers Edge Motorsports. Don't usually see them on the back foot like this.
He's very settled here at the front. Everyone seems to be in a comfortable position. I believe that Orban feels he doesn't have enough in the car right now to give chase. Colin Brown just happy to sit there as the Pro-Am leader.
You're spot on about Morad, just finding a rhythm, finding a way to drive around whatever deficiencies in this car he might be feeling.
He's going to be thinking after that mistake. I don't think when he got back on the road in Oak Tree, he was going to be thinking he'd be leading this race at this stage of the game.
Well, no one expects Bill Oberlin to send it off track, and that's basically what happened to give Daniel the chance to get back through. You know, it's pretty rare when you could make, as a team, 2 fairly significant errors and still come away with a win in this championship. But you think about Kenton Cook parking in the wrong pit stall, and he was being hard on himself at the time. I'm sure Morad was being hard on himself when he had his off on his 2nd lap in the car there at Oak Tree, and yet their first weekend in the pro class, they have a really good shot here in 8 minutes of getting a win.
Absolutely. Watch out for this car tomorrow. Robbie Foley just ran a 46.1 at this stage of the race, just 0.3 off his fastest lap. 0.6 quicker than the leader right now, and he'll start tomorrow's race from the pole. Vin Barletta, his teammate, will have learned a lot today, and I've got a feeling he may be having a leading car that he's going to have turned over to him tomorrow.
Former GT4 champion in Pirelli GT4 America back in 2020. Part of that magical season, him and Michael Dinan. Michael won countless races.
20, I think.
Something absurd.
Yeah. 11 and 9, I think. 11 in one championship, 9 in the other.
And Robbie was the co-driver in the Sprint X portion back when there was a 2-driver and single-driver version of Pirelli GT4 America. There's Kenton Cook, his wife alongside, just there off on the right. How cool is it for Kenton? He gets this call up, delivered beautifully in qualifying. Again, I know he's going to kick himself about the miscue in the pits, but man, that can happen to anybody when you just get plugged into a team with no testing, no practice, no chance to really acclimate yourself. And his pace has been tremendous all weekend. I think this has the potential to open some big-time doors.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who know of Kenton's abilities. They've worked with him, whether it's in a coaching role with one of their drivers or a testing role. He gets drafted in quite often just to give the thumbs up to a setup. You may have a driver who's not feeling it, doesn't have the confidence, and it's good to have kind of a yardstick like Kenton Cook to drive your race car and say, yeah, everything's okay, or work a little bit in this direction. And but then when you put him behind the wheel, he's first class. I mean, what he did today with minimal seat time is really a testimony to that. And yeah, he was kicking himself in after the pit stop that he made that little error. He said, I can't remember ever doing that before, but it's a lot coming at you. And despite his experience, it's all a bit of a blur when you're thrown in at the deep end like this.
Let's just think about the Indy 8-hour last year. Daniel Morad got called in kind of last minute to drive in that race, and he had a starring role in the car that went on to win that Intercontinental GT Challenge powered by Pirelli round. And talking to Daniel earlier this season, he was pretty upfront about the fact that has helped him get rides both over at the 24 Hours of Daytona and then some other IMSA races, and then this ride right here with TR3, that put him on their radar when they were out there looking for a driver to pair with Ziad Gondor this season. So these are the kinds of performances that the rest of the paddock stops and takes notice of.
Well, there's also opportunity right now. If you look at the global stage of motorsports, there's just a big rise in the prototypes and big manufacturers getting involved, and they're taking along with them to the prototype ranks a lot of these GT3 drivers.
Sure.
Ferrari did it at Le Mans. The majority of their squad was led by their former GT drivers. For example, Porsche have got a squad that's kind of split, and that creates opportunity for guys like Kenton Cook. The manufacturers suddenly looking elsewhere. Who do we have that's got some experience, got some speed, showcases their talents to maybe fill those slots?
Under 5 minutes to go. Daniel Morad, the Canadian, still lapping within a second of his best lap of the race, deep into this run around a difficult VIR racetrack. And he's been able to build a bit of a gap. Oberlin then will close in, but then Morad eases away. All the while, Colin Brown sitting patiently, the snake in the grass, if you will, leader in Pro-Am, but no need to jump up and bite right now if you're Colin Brown. He's doing exactly what he needs to do with his own championship in mind.
Absolutely. Two leaders just separated by 0.03 of a second on that previous lap, so they're pushing. It's not like they're just settled, but they recognize if they ask any more at the race car, they'll probably search and scratch for that little bit of an edge and realize this is all I got. Let's just try and keep, you know, hitting those marks, hitting those numbers, and seeing if one or the other makes a mistake.
Only other real scrap of note is back for 9th and 10th overall. Valentin Haas-Clos and Adam Christodoulou are within a second of one another, but that's a bit down the order. That is for the final spot, though, on the Pro-Am podium. So still something at stake. Entering the final 3 minutes of the first of 2 races here this weekend for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Race 2 comes your way tomorrow. Green flag tentatively scheduled for right around 2:15. Coverage starts 2 o'clock Eastern Time here from Virginia International Raceway.
See the different lines there through the horseshoe. Oberlin electing just to keep it a little bit tighter. Morad running a wider line. He had to adopt that early, otherwise he was spinning up the rear wheels and losing traction out of that corner, so he's opening up his hands as he starts to go back to power.
Had a chance to assess the strengths and weaknesses of Mercedes versus BMW a lot over the course of this race. What stands out to you?
Well, I think they're pretty evenly matched, obviously, over the course of a whole lap. I think maybe the Mercedes doesn't have the ultimate setup underneath it. I think both Kenton alluded to that in his interview, and I think we've seen that from Daniel at various phases of this race. I think the BMW is strong here. They're pretty evenly matched in terms of straightaway speed for about 80% of it. Then right at the very end, just the top end of the BMW looks a little bit stronger, but you know, the Mercedes is always so good at dealing with the curves and compliancy over the bumps. It's good under the brakes, so it's an even match. It's kind of a little bit of an ebb and flow, but nothing significantly stands out to me.
This Mercedes, even the Evo version, it's one of the older cars among the modern GT3 cars. It's been a while since Mercedes has rolled out an update. The BMW is in just its second year. But through that BOP process, as you can see, very comparable between the two German marques. Check the lap times, Morad a 46.7, Oberlin a 46.6. We're talking, what, 49 thousandths of a second between the two?
Yeah, I think they're just maximizing everything the car will give them. I mean, it's high quality driving, you know, so at the ultimate level here, just the consistency, just tapping on the same tenth or two every single lap. And I think earlier in the stint they were exploring, trying to figure out if there was a better way of getting around this racetrack, and I think both drivers then felt their rhythm. I think for Morad, he was pushing the car too much and he had to bring it back a little bit to find a similar pace to Oberlin. And Brown has just been sitting there, potentially the fastest car in this threesome running up front, but he has the class lead and not pushing it too much, I would feel.
If you join us for race 2 tomorrow, the start of the race figures to look an awful lot like this, with the pros in the Pro-Am lineups, mixing it up with the pros in the Pro Class cars as well. But then it's the less experienced driver's turn to finish the deal tomorrow. And that tends to be when we see some fireworks. Yep, you're right. 45 car off the pace. It's been a tough weekend for the whole Wright Motorsports team, to be frank.
I'm sure there's a cut left rear on that car. Looked to be perfectly straight coming up the straightaway there.
Lock at all zeros. That means we'll see the white cloth unfurled above these front runners this time around. There we go. I should say it will be the checkered flag for TR3 Racing Pro Class debut on the season. Daniel Morad, Kenton Cook get the job done. Bill Oberlin in second, along with Chandler Hull and Colin Brown. And George Kurtz celebrate yet another victory after winning their class at Le Mans last week. They are here in Virginia. They are the winners in the Pro-Am class. The battle, though, continues here a little bit further down the Pro-Am ranks. This is for second. Make that for third and fourth in Pro-Am. Haseklo in the TRG Aston coming through Hog Pen. Make that fourth and fifth, excuse me. Haseklo will have just enough to keep Chris Dedulu behind in his series debut.
It's going to be fun to see that pair go at it tomorrow, though.
Oh, yeah. And there is Samantha Tan. She'll be quite pleased. Neil Verhagen, what a drive. 5th overall. ST Racing will be on the podium for the first time this season. 2nd place in the Pro-Am class.
Solid day, and great recovery by Daniel Morad after that little slip up on his opening lap out of the pits. Got a little bit lucky. To be honest with you, most people who run off there ended up catching the tire barrier, but he just missed it. And for Oberlin, he made that critical error there in turn 5, just ate up too much of the curb there, put the car right over the top of it, and it just spat him across the road.
Well, I'll say it again, the job that this TR3 team has done, brand new to the Mercedes this year, going toe-to-toe with Riley, with DXTT, proven teams with the Mercedes, and for the first time fighting with a Pro Class lineup this season. They really showed their quality.
Look at that last lap of the race. Elliott Skier puts down his personal best. So he didn't stop digging.
Certainly not. 46.1. That is not far off of CrowdStrike fastest lap. That will give them a nice little boost looking ahead to tomorrow. I think the fastest lap was a 45.6. So right there in the ballpark. As we wrap up race 1 of the weekend, there are your winners. Daniel Morad, Kenton Cook, deputizing for Ziad Gondor. Ziad will be loving this, watching from afar. TR3 Racing takes overall honors ahead of the Vimmerworld BMW of Chandler Hull and Bill Oberlin, Colin Brown, George Kurtz. Winners in Pro-Am, 3rd overall. How about MDK Motorsports? Seth Lucas, Trenton Estep, Really didn't see much of him in the second half of the race. Nice quiet run, good result.
Really solid day. I think they'll get a lot of inspiration from that one.
Another podium for them. They're racking them up at this stage of the season. Still looking for that breakthrough win, but it does feel like it's inching closer. Then Verhagen and Tan, great result. First podium for ST Racing of the season. Balzan and Franco. Tell you what, Manny Franco had a great opening stint. He gained a bunch of positions on the first lap around a track that is not his favorite, and well, maybe he'll change his mind after today.
Yeah, no, he's a racer. He's not afraid to dust it up a little bit, go onto the side of Derek DeBoer. Got away with it a little bit, but again, it's tough to coexist through that turn 2 kink there, particularly on the opening lap of the race.
Look down in 13th and remember the 096 Turner Motorsport BMW, because that's the car that starts on the overall pole tomorrow. And Robbie Foley was rapid in his second stint today. Ben Barletta, a couple little miscues, but he's new to GT3 racing at this level. He'll go to bed, he'll learn from those, and come back stronger tomorrow. Great to have Turner back in the championship. Provisional results there for race number 1. Cars starting to make their way back to Parc Fermé, or more impressively, to Victory Circle. That's where you find TR3 Racing. There is Daniel Morad, fresh off a trip to France of his own. He was down in the south of France celebrating his nuptials 1 week ago. Made the trip back stateside and about to celebrate a race win. Great result for him and for the team. He climbs out of the race car. There's Gregory Romanelli, team owner. TR3 stands for the Romanelli 3. 3 brothers from Italy, now working in Florida, that put this team together. This is a little team that has been punching above its weight for several years now.
Yeah, they really have. They burst on the scene, I think it was like 2017 maybe, with Daniel Mancinelli at St. Petersburg with a bright yellow Ferrari that no one knew anything about and put it on the pole. And since that time, they've really been a mainstay of this level of competition.
Yeah, I think Daniel was AM to start that weekend, and that lasted about 1 qualifying session before that got changed. Well, let's focus on the here and now. Amanda has found our overall winners from TR3.
Oh, and a big hug between the teammates. And Kenton, you got the call up to join into this team this weekend, and we hope that you have forgiven yourself for that miscue that you made. What a stint that you drove. When you think of this opportunity, what do you want people to remember about Kenton Cook?
I mean, that mistakes can be forgiven. and thanks to Daniel for bringing it home here. Holy crap, this guy drove a hell of a race. So definitely an honor to drive it with a guy like this caliber, and learn a lot from someone like this. So very thankful for TR3 and Ziad for this one.
Daniel, we know you probably left pit lane with some of the chaos that happened. Bill Oberlin was able to take advantage of you. You were able to get right back at it. But when did you feel that you found yourself in rhythm on this track?
Well, first of all, the 3-stop strategy was fantastic today. Unbelievable call by Kenton. I was looking forward to an easy race. You know, Kenton had a 10-second lead, and then he made me sweat. Look at this. You're going to give me a towel or something? Jeez. No, it was great. The TR3 did an amazing job. You know, I mentioned in the pre-race, we were limited. We had 1 session of practice. Kenton got, 6 laps in the car before the race. So really happy with it. We were able to deliver. Even though it was a little bit adversity filled, we were able to deliver the win, and the first win of the season for TR3. I know Ziad's probably proud of us on vacation.
Congratulations, guys. We know Ziad's probably watching, so hello, sir. But over to the next celebration that is happening. Our Pro-Am winners, Colin Brown and George Kurtz. And Colin, when you think of the stint that you had here today, you now have 3 wins on the season. You know that the 120 was a little bit injured. How does that help this team as we head to the back half of this season?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, important. Obviously, we got to keep the big picture in mind. George did a great job on that opening stint. Made my job pretty easy for the day. So big hats off to him. These guys did a great job on the pit stops. And yeah, I mean, we're just trying to be smart here at CrowdStrike and Riley, and just, knock off, as George says, hang around the hoop, take the finishes when they come our way, and just be smart. So yeah, great day for us for sure.
George, you guys won here last year together as well. You come off of a win at Le Mans. How fun is it winning and celebrating these moments together?
Oh, it's great. We're just trying to keep the momentum going forward, and we had a bit of a struggle getting the car to where we needed it to this week. So this morning it was, it was looking a little bleak, but we put it all together. The team did a great job, and it's just a pleasure to be driving with a guy like Colin.
Well done.
Fantastic performance. I think Colin was exactly right. George totally set the table for him there in that second stint, and they was able to finish the job. There is the Pro-Am winning car. Look at the great crowd that is assembled here at VIR that watched a great opening race of the weekend. Let's look back on race one now. Kenton Cook in his GT3 debut in SRO America led the field to green, was able to fend off an early challenge from George Kurtz, but look at that contact, the big save from Derek DeBoer.
Yeah, and I think that saved a penalty on Manny Franco, because looking at it again, he kind of got into his side door there. Then there was a great battle here. Chandler Hull and George Kurtz going at it.
Amazing, not for class position, but it was still mighty fierce between the Mercedes driver and the BMW driver. It took the bulk of the opening stint for Chandler Hull to finally make the move. TR3 with the big lead early on. Here we have Chandler Hull putting the move on George Kurtz. This time, George deciding discretion, the better part of valor. Able to sprint it to the inside. Now, this was the big moment here in the pits. Kenton Cook stopping at the wrong pit stall, Cal.
Unbelievable. You are really sweating at that point, and Daniel Morad can't believe what he's watching. That allows Oberlin to get really close. Halen trying to get his lap back as well.
And there you see the lead that was 10 seconds came down to next to nothing. Then Morad drops a wheel, goes off track. Oberlin's through to the lead and possibly the win, or so we thought.
Yeah, we thought he'd just streak away, then he just eats up too much of that curb there in turn 5, and if he hits the right rear up and over the bump there, just sends him across the road, Morad is through, and it maintained that lead to the checker.
Two impressive saves, though, from Morad and Oberlin to at least salvage something. This was a very close call from Daniel. About 10 minutes later, he was able to corral it, and there you see the lights flashing and the celebration as TR3 scores its first win of 2023 in their first race in the Pro class here this season. And there's the celebration for the Pro-Am class winners of Riley Motorsports with the CrowdStrike sponsorship. There they are, standing on the podium. Top step belongs to George Kurtz, Colin Brown, but the pairing to their left, let's give them a shout out, because it was a strong weekend, or at least it's starting to be one, for the Triarci teammates of Wetherill and Diao.
Yeah, they have pace. Ryan's certainly up on the wheel, and I think Justin's getting his confidence back. He had a couple of big incidents towards the end of last season, and I think it's taken him a while to get back in his stride.
There's the ST Racing team making their way to the podium, beckoned up there by DJ Clark. It's been a good weekend for the female drivers of SRO America. You think of Maddie Oust winning in TC America earlier today. Samantha Tan was there to congratulate her. Podium for Sally McNulty in TC America today. Her first career podium and first podium of the season for ST Racing's Samantha Tan with her new teammate Neil Verhagen.
Lots of big smiles there. I think everyone's happy with their day.
Thank you, drivers. Switch back into those Pirelli cabs.
Always tough, though, not to get too excited because we have another race tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm not sure if some of those up there are old enough to drink anyway, but yeah, it's tough. You just have to reset, have a good dinner, get a good night's rest, and go back at it tomorrow.
That is the name of the game in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Two races a weekend, except for the season finale, the lone enduro on the calendar, the Indianapolis 8-hour, part of Intercontinental GT Challenge, powered by Pirelli, Globetrotting GT3 Championship under the SRO umbrella, including classics like the Bathurst 12-hour, and of course the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa, which is coming up in just a couple of weeks. And there will be a heavy North American presence in that crucial crown jewel event coming up here just a few weeks from today.
Oh, it's going to be special, really special. It's a magnificent event, and the field this year is absolutely stacked, and we're well represented as well from our championship.
It's very much a track in a similar mold as this one at VIR from the perspective of it is fast, it is high commitment, and one that drivers love to go to. VIR certainly fits that bill as well. Great racing in race number 1 of the weekend. We'll get a chance to do it again tomorrow. Congratulations to the race winners. TR3, Kenton Cook and Daniel Morad with the overall victory. Pro-Am belongs to CrowdStrike by Riley, George Kurtz, and Colin Brown. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow for race number 2 here at VIR. And you see Kenton Cook, and he's not going to have long to celebrate this because he's got a Pirelli GT4 America race coming up in just a few minutes. So he's going to be eager to, yeah, that's right. Both of them will be eager to pose for the pictures and hustle back to the grid. And I don't know if either of them will be starting today, but they'll at least want to be there for the start of that race. See a couple of youngsters there getting to enjoy the podium. Special moment for them. And again, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the coverage. Looking forward to bringing you the second race of the weekend tomorrow. But there they are, your overall podium in race 1 for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS.
Drivers, go ahead and put those Pirelli caps back on.